Hey Reefers, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how and what I feed my reef tank throughout the week. First of all, I wanted to make it clear that the food I feed is throughout the week. It's separate days, so when you see me preparing a food, that's day 1, day 2, or day 3. So the first food here is the raw shrimp. You can get it at Walmart for about $5. First thing I do is I rinse it off with cold water. Not hot, not warm. I don't want to defrost it. I just want to rinse it off and keep it somewhat frozen. And when you see it frozen here, it's going to be a lot easier to chop up into pieces that I need. So here I'm going to chop up 2 different sizes. One very, very small for the smaller fishes, and I'm trying to chop up another batch here of just a little bit bigger ones because my Australian stripies are very aggressive eaters, so I try to feed them first and have their mouths full with the bigger chunks so they don't go after the smaller pieces. I try to do this process, whatever, about 2 to 3 times a day, just depending on the day, but usually I do at least 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. So when I stated earlier about the different sizes, I'm going to try to drop all the bigger chunks first to keep the Australian stripies pretty busy. And I don't turn off the flow in my system. I keep it moving. I want the food to basically just go throughout the whole tank so the fishes have to chase after the food. Nothing is just floating there for them and make it easier for them. I know it can get into the overflow, it can, things like that, but I want every animal I have in here to have a shot at the food, even the hermit crabs, the emerald crabs, the shrimp, things like that. I want everything to have a chance at getting the food, and usually cutting it very small, everything usually gets a bite or more. And I do not drop both pieces of shrimp at once. I usually do half of each that I cut up. The first wave, I wait about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and drop the rest in. So yeah, they do get both shrimps during one feeding, but not all at once. So yeah, that's the day 1 feeding, so we can call that maybe Sunday, so to make it easier for everybody to understand that the food I'm going to show you how I prep and feed, it's just different days I feed them. The fishes are all fed. We're gonna jump into the next day, which is day 2, or we can call that Monday, and let me show you here what I prep for them. So we're on day 2. Day 2 is a lot easier. It's just Nori sheets and pellets. So throughout the day I would drop pellets, a pinch here and there, but then I'll roll up a whole Nori sheet for them, and it usually lasts them the whole day. The Nori sheet here I'm using, it's just seaweed that I get from Amazon. Pretty cheap, lasts a long time. You get like 50 of them, and I haven't noticed any ill effects of this one instead of buying the normal fish brand ones. And when I folded it up, I've learned that from Worldwide Corals from Vic. Before, I used to just put the whole sheet in and notice that when the fish pulls it, it just floats everywhere throughout the tank, and that sucks. But doing it this way, folding it, gives them something to do all day, and they can't destroy the whole sheet all at once. It takes time, and like I said, it generally takes them about 24 hours to finish the whole sheet. And then, like I said, throughout the day, not right now when I just put in the sheet, but maybe a couple hours later, I come by the tank and take a little pinch of the pellets and drop it in the tank. Sometimes I'll do 2 depending on how aggressive they're eating it, and see and go from there on how much I feed. But the most I do is about 2 pinches of the pellets throughout the day, or at one time, but throughout the whole day, evening, things like that. So some of you may not agree with the seaweed that I use, because that's made for human consumption. But I've done my research. I made sure it's unsalted, roasted, and I've been doing that particular brand of seaweed for over 2 years now. And fishes, corals, tank, everything seems to be fine. Maybe that's probably why my phosphates are pretty high, but overall, I mean, I can't afford to buy tiny sheets from Petco and PetSmart that lasts maybe a week at most. Their sheets are very tiny, so I find that buying this brand on Amazon works for me. So we're on day 3 now, and it's a lot of things I put into this. First off, starting with a cup of RODI water, Nori sheet, frozen plankton, frozen mysis shrimp, frozen brine shrimp, and a bunch of powders, starting with the rotifers, got from Bulk Reef Supply. Next is the spirulina powder, also got from Bulk Reef Supply. And third is the Copipod powder, same thing, Bulk Reef Supply. I know this is not sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply at all. And we got the Reef Blizzard, just coral food as well. So now here, just going to show you what I put into the RDI water. Starting off with 2 frozen brine shrimp, 1 frozen reef plankton, and 2 frozen mysis shrimp. And I wanted to apologize about the camera view. I thought I had it perfectly centered, but I guess not. Anyways, I'm using this little red scooper that I got from one of the Salford test kits. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just doing 1 scoop of each of the 4 powdered foods and mixing it into the RDI water. And here I'm just shredding up the whole Nori sheets. As not too small, but just still in kind of somewhat in chunks, but just not too small where it disintegrates in the cup. And then I just stir it up, let it sit for about 10-15 minutes before I feed the tank. So it's been about 10 or 15 minutes that the food's been just marinating in the cup, and time to feed the tank. And one thing is, I do not feed the whole cup at once. This batch lasts all day from morning until evening, and sometimes it'll last till the next day. It'll be fine as long as you keep it refrigerated. It doesn't spoil. I don't have any or notice any bad smells coming from it when it's just sitting around. And again, I do not turn off my flow. I want the food to just go everywhere throughout the whole tank. Corals can snatch up the food. The powders that I put in there, it just feeds all the living creatures that I have in my system. So this feeding here is like morning, early afternoon feeding. Can't really see all the food that's floating around and things like that with the sun still out and stuff. So I'll probably come back and feed it at night, where it's a lot easier to see all the food and particles floating throughout the tank, where the corals can grab, fish can grab. You'll see probably see the shrimps and all that, hermit crabs and stuff come out for the food once they get a taste of it or smell it in the water. We are back at the tank again, nighttime. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed it some more. You can see there's still a little bit less than half left. And when it gets near the end, I usually add more water to it just to dilute it, because it gets really thick and I don't want to feed the whole thing all at once. This cup here, I'm going to try to make it last till the next day. So by me adding more water gives me an extra 1 or 2 more feedings with this cup. And again, keep it refrigerated in just a regular fridge. It'll be fine. It's not going to spoil in my experience. I don't know about yours yet, but for me, it has no smell, no ill effects on my tank. Fishes eat it up. Corals are still happy and healthy. But again, this is based on my experience. I've been doing this for a while as well. Once I mix it up, I feed it. I put it in the refrigerator, just a regular size side of the fridge. Keep it cold. It should last at least 36 hours. And before you jump into doing feeding similar to this, just look at the differences in our tanks. How many fishes do you have? How big is your tank? How much corals do you have? Just cut the amount down based on the livestock that you have in your tank. If you have a bigger system, you might want to add more. If you have a smaller system, add less. Not saying this is the right or wrong way to do it, but this is how I do it. And I just want to share it with you guys. If anybody out there is just looking for something that's more detailed into feeding your fishes and your reef tank. And of course, I'm gonna say it again, feed your fishes. Your fishes poop. Your fishes will feed your corals. It's, what's that word again? I don't remember, but everything serves a purpose in your tank. Make the fish poop. Make the fish, feed them well, they will poop. Yes, your nitrates, phosphates may climb up, but there's ways to remove that. What you import, you can export. Whatever the corals don't consume, you can run a skimmer, a GFO, a lot of other things. I know I say to keep it simple, but I mean, that's just my way of reefing. I believe in feeding my fishes heavy, and feeding my corals, and then trying to export whatever that's not eaten in the tank. And sorry for rambling again, but that's just how I reef. And appreciate everybody watching, liking, and subscribing to the channel. And I'll try to put out more content that can help newer reefers or even experienced reefers, make changes to their tank or try to keep things simple. Again, thanks for watching and happy reefing.